Really? This movie should be called Hide Your Kids, Hide Your Wife, because Hera is coming after everybody. Zeus, you in danger, girl. So, Blood of Zeus is the latest original anime coming out of Netflix, and it's actually been made by Powerhouse Animation Studio, which is the same studio that produced the hit Netflix series Castlevania. And Blood of Zeus chronicles the illegitimate son of Zeus, Heron, as he discovers his true heritage and how he's been tasked with saving heaven and earth from a demonic army despite the interference of a vengeful goddess. Ooh. Now, if you've been a fan of me and my channel for a while, you already know and could probably say it with me, but the things I love in my fantasy are what? Blood, sex, gore, and magic. And while this property didn't really have a lot of sex, sadly, because yeah, it definitely had everything else. And considering this is the same studio that made Castlevania, and I loved Castlevania, I gotta say, I did have a good time watching this series overall. Being a fantasy fan, especially a fantasy fan living in America, like some of my earliest introductions into myth, lore, gods, goddesses was Greek mythology. And whether it's television shows like Hercules with Kevin Sorbo, before he revealed himself to be a trash person, the Disney movie Hercules, Xena Warrior Princess, countless other forms of media, whether or entertainment like video games like the God of War games. Then of course you got Wonder Woman, who gets her powers, and her pantheon is made up of Greek gods and goddesses. You got Shazam, who gets his powers from Greek gods and goddesses. And so for the most part, I've had a lot of exposure to Greek myths and legends. And yes, as a black kid, it'd be nice if African myths and lore and gods got as much love and admiration as Greek myths, especially considering Egyptian gods and stuff came first. That would be nice. And funny enough, while I was watching the trailer for this series, despite really enjoying it and despite being like, ooh, I can't wait to catch that and can't wait to watch that, I was watching it, I was like, dang, can we get like a Blood of Olerun series? And for those of you that don't know, Olerun is basically the Zeus for the Orishas, the Yoruba religion. I mean, hell, just look at this image that I found online when I looked up the character of Olerun, and it's I believe it's a fan-made image. Like, how badass does this look? But that's a whole nother discussion entirely. I digress. But yeah, so anyway, back to Blood of Zeus. So yeah, overall, I mean, this is a typical chosen one type of story. You follow the main character, Heron, as he discovers who he is. He rises up and saves the world. So in that aspect, there's really nothing new. But my God, the animation for this series is incredible, especially the fight scenes. And this cartoon series is bloody, and I loved it. You see people's heads get chopped off, you see limbs getting chopped off, and it doesn't hide the gruesomeness of a war. And that's exactly what's happening in this series. There is a war, and I was here for every moment of it, because again, what do I love in my fantasy? Blood, sex, gore, and magic. And it had some blood, it had some gore, and it had magic. It had a little bit of sex, but not as much as I wanted, like I said before. But yeah, and even the magic, displays of magic with the Greek gods, like all of the displays of power from like Zeus, Hera, you have Hermes, you have Ares in this property, you have Poseidon, you have a lot of the Greek gods and goddesses. Now granted, I wish they had more of them and you got to see more of them, but anyway, all of it looked great, and the fight scenes were just so fluid, and it was just like a theme park for your eyes. That's how visually stunning this series was. And interestingly enough, despite this series seemingly really being about Heron as the main lead, honestly, like, he was the weakest person to me and the least interesting character in this series. Like, really, I feel like this series flies when you're following Zeus, voiced excellently by Jason O'Mara, who's the most recent voice in a lot of the DC animated movies. He voices Batman. And then also Hera, who's voiced by Claudia Christian. Like, whenever those two were on screen, the series was that much more interesting. And I mean, truth of the matter is, like, really, this series should be called Zeus is a boy, because because, I mean, if you know anything about Greek mythology, it's not really a spoiler to say, but Zeus and Hera are married. Hera is basically his sister wife, and despite that, Zeus has children by a bunch of different other women. And not only has he slept with a bunch of gods and goddesses, he's also slept with a bunch of different human men and women. And in this series, Hera is finally fed up with his shit. And while I was watching, I was like, at this point, I'm like, can you really blame her? Now, granted, she does go a little overboard, but instead of taking her anger out on Zeus, she takes it out on the world. And so with that, I would say that's kind of a small gripe and complaint that I have regarding this series is how they treat certain women characters. Like, for example, they completely treat Hera as the villain. She's another typical crazy woman, yet the character Zeus is simply treated like a flawed hero. But it's like, but no, like I said before, Zeus is a boy. Now, granted, Hera is problematic too. They're both problematic as hell, and they both deserve each other. But the way the series depicts Zeus versus the way they depict Hera, I'm just like, And I know it's typical for Greek mythology and Greek lore to depict Hera as the jealous wife, but it's not like Zeus wasn't doing nothing. And then also there's another thing that they do with their female characters. There's a typical trope with female characters specifically that they call fridging. And if you don't know what fridging is, it's a term coined by comic book writer Gail Simone, and it basically just means killing off a female character to motivate the male characters. That's something that they did in this series, and I was just like, I wasn't really a fan of that. And of course, when it comes to any type of fantasy, animation, or anything like that, you can only have one black character in this series, and his name is Kofi. And funny enough, when I was listening to him speak, I was like, I feel like that's the same voice actor that plays the one black character in Castlevania. And I'm pretty sure it is. Actually, let me look that up right now. Yep, magic of editing. I just paused and I looked that up. It is the same voice actor from Castlevania. So yeah, you can only have one black person in this series. But anyway, he has this best friend whose name is Evos, and I really like those two characters. And while they didn't explicitly say it, or they didn't really say it at all, in my mind, I don't care what anybody says, the two of them are lovers. And I would have liked to have seen and learned more about those two characters. And not even just them, I feel like a lot of the side characters didn't get as much backstory or development as I would have liked to have seen, because like I said, they were way more interesting and way more compelling and had way more personality than Heron. And so for the most part, I wasn't really interested in Heron's character at all. But with that said, overall, I did really enjoy The Blood of Zeus. I didn't love it, but I did think it was fun. I will say, like, the first 2 episodes are pretty slow, because a lot of it you have to like slog through the exposition to get the story moving. But once you get past that, the story definitely does move. And even with the exposition, the thing that keeps the exposition so interesting is the gorgeous animation. Like, I can't overstate, the animation for this series is gorgeous. And then again, the great voice acting for not even just the characters that play Zeus and Hera, but everybody in the cast was great. And I didn't mention this, but once you get the backstory of the other villain in this story that besides Hera, like, I found myself being way more interested and invested in the villain storyline than again I was in Heron. And so once they start getting into his story, that's when I feel like the series really starts to go. But yeah, like I said, I did like Blood of Zeus. I would definitely recommend it, and overall I would say it's a solid hit. But yeah, but the question is, did you guys see Blood of Zeus? What did you think about it? Let me know down in the comment section below. Also, if you can, hit that thumbs up button and like this video to really help out the channel. And if this is one of your first time checking out one of my videos, please check out the other videos on my channel. I did this video a little bit differently. I just wanted to try some stuff out. So check out the other videos on my channel. And if you like what you see, please subscribe for more and hit that bell notification button so you're alerted every single time I post a new video. And tell your friends, families, and neighbors about my channel to help me continue to grow. And as always, I will catch you guys next time. Don't forget to vote.